Except for the World War, we've not had a situation where the Olympics have been stopped, except I think 1976, 1980, when even despite the mass withdrawal by countries from the Olympics, they still went on in those two editions. So for me, maybe until the IOC has spoken, everything else at this point in time is not speculative, but an opinion, because we know again. Let's wait and see, going by the trends that we have seen in terms of new infections,
yes,
and the impact globally. Because one of the other things that is being said is that as we progress, then the body is, the human body is likely to develop the immunity against this virus. So we wait and see.
That is, having too much hope in the face of such a pandemic.
It's always good to be hopeful, Toskin, because then without hope, what else do we have in the wake of what is happening?
Of course, we've got to tamper that with the science. What are the scientists saying? And is there a chance that we could get a vaccine anytime soon? I don't know.
I mean, the vaccine would take longer because of the protocols that precede a vaccine being declared safe and for administration. But in terms of, I mean, what I'm saying is born out of science, that this is a virus, just like any other virus. Once the body has been exposed to it, what is being looked at is the response to how the body responds in terms of antibodies that then would be able to develop the immunity for that. And you've got to see, China says, although it is being disputed across Britain and across Europe and the US,
yes,
that the numbers may not be exactly what we are being told, or the situation is not as contained as it were. But then I think what I have read is that the numbers are going down. If you look at Italy, yes, there are new infections, but then yesterday, 120 deaths, lower than the previous day. Some hope of recoveries. I saw about 2 patients who are now, from Italy, which is the worst hit in terms of even more than China now, because they're talking about more than 5,000 deaths so far. For me, it gives us a bit of hope. They're talking about a few weeks to a few months for that to be contained. I just hope that
but then across the world, we cannot take chances with the athletes' health. And you can see Australia and Canada have come in to say they are putting the safety of the athletes first.
Of course, the best interest of the sport, again, is safeguarded by the athletes' health.
Yes.
So I'm not advocating that we risk the health of our athletes. All I'm saying is that perhaps until the IOC has spoken, it is my hope that we are 5 months away to the Olympics. A decision could be made perhaps end of May, early June. It won't be too late.
What could be the reason? What could be the reason for IOC not just coming out now and say, well, we can't put up with this, we'll have to postpone? Is it economic considerations on the Japanese economy, because they have put in a lot of money?
Obviously, yes. It's running into trillions of money. It is running into trillions of money, not just in terms of the investment by the Japanese, but you've got to look to appreciate the fact that the Olympics, the revenues, the investment, even the participating countries, qualifiers, you are aware that qualifiers are not business that just started the other day. It's been going on in some instances, sports disciplines as long as 2 years.
Yes.
Therefore, for a decision like that to be made, it's got to take care of all those considerations. Remember, the other day we were talking about the possible insurance,
yes,
for the Olympics, and it covers, I think, up to about 5% or thereabout. I'm not so sure of that number, but then it is just a drop in the ocean when you look at, broadcasters in terms of all that. it is a holistic approach that they have to give before the IOC can make a decision. Again, you've got to look at the aspect of time. The aspect of time comes in this way. Even the sports disciplines that have suspended or postponed the events, it is only within, 2-3 months before.
Yeah.
We are talking about Olympics, which are coming up in August, and we are in end of March. So I think the IOC have reason to be optimistic that, yeah, perhaps end of May, if the situation doesn't look to be getting better, then a decision has to be taken, and it will only be to call off the event.
Yes, let's hope that the authorities involved will take measures, to guarantee the safety of the athletes all across the world. And of course, Kenya is a major sporting power, and we've participated in the Olympics over the years, and we've been winning medals. Just hope that all shall be well at the end of the day. But then we need to shift to football matters, because if you look at the Standard newspaper today, the back page, if you've not bought your paper already, but of course we've gone digital also, you can get the paper in digital format, because I'm sure you don't want to get out there because of the semi-lockdown, I would say, that is out there. But the issue is, Kenyans will be waiting with bated breath for today's decision of the FIFA Disciplinary Committee that sits on to decide on the fate of Kenya after Football Kenya Federation failed to pay former coach Adel Amrouche 109 million shillings. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, on September 19 last year directed FKF to pay Adel Amrouche the amount as compensation for wrongful dismissal. Milton, big day for Kenya. You are inside your house. You don't know what's happening, but KTN, we bring you this information. The FIFA Disciplinary Committee is sitting today to decide on the fate of that payment, 109 million shillings.
Well, as it is today, I think I do not know what to say, but really it could be a very sad day for Kenya for obvious reasons, that we have failed to adhere to the decision of CAS, and worse is that the federation, the Football Kenya Federation under Nick Mwendwa, instead of being magnanimous and proposing a payment formula, has been adamant that, they want the taxpayer to pay for this. But I think you've got to look at the history of this, that some of the positions that have been, suggested by the leadership of FKF, the outgoing leadership and the General Secretary, Mr. Barry Otieno, is a bit misguided. That Adel was not hired during their term, and therefore it is not an obligation for them to pay. But that is a wrong decision, because FKF is an institution. It doesn't matter who's in office at what time, but that institutional continuity is guaranteed. And that is why, for me, the first time, in fact, they shouldn't have dismissed Adel in the first place, because there was an advisory, and we are meant to understand, because I was part of the handing over team in 2016 when there was a file specifically for the national team, and there was a letter to government, and it was in the file that Adel had been reinstated by CAF following that one-year suspension in sometime in 2015, 2014, end of 2014. So it was naive of the federation to imagine that Adel was just going to live without a fight.
Well, as we said, Adel Amrouche coached Kenya between 2013 to 2014 before he was let go of by the federation. But now he took his case to the to FIFA, where it was considered under the player status committee, and he was awarded 60 million shillings plus another 5% in terms of his salary. It rose to 82.25 million after FKF appealed that decision. But now, today, we have to face what the disciplinary committee will have to say. We have lawyer CBG Ouma on the line. I would like, maybe if he's listening to us, I would like to ask him this question about appeals. FKF appealed at CAS. We lost that case. Now we are before the disciplinary committee. Is there any other way out for Kenya?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, if you're listening to our conversation here, we just want to bring you on to this matter or touching on former Harambee Stars coach Adel Amrouche. I know we'll be having another next discussion about the SDT ruling. But just as a lawyer, the fact that the case went to CAS and Kenya lost, now we have that case before the disciplinary committee of FIFA. Do you think Kenya has a way out? Because the deadline to pay Adel Amrouche was on 11th of March.
Thank you, Tosin. Are you getting?
Yes, I'm getting you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now, the truth of the matter is there's no way out. For a start, Kenya recognized the jurisdiction of the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Yes.
First, by virtue of a member of FIFA, but even more crucially, by virtue of the impact of the 1958 New York Convention on international commercial arbitration. Now, Kenya is obliged by that convention to recognize and enforce the decisions of the tribunal. And there are very limited opportunities for challenge. And even those limited opportunities, the time for exercising them has long expired. So the long and short of it is that purely from a legal perspective, under Kenyan law, under the Kenyan Arbitration Act, under the 1958 New York Convention, under FIFA statutes, and even under the FKF Constitution itself, there is simply no way out. That money must be paid. What FKF needs to be doing is to negotiate a method of paying. If they do not have the money presently, they should have engaged the lawyers for Amrouche and come up with a payment plan. That is the only way out.
Yeah, because even the Sports Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Amina Mohamed, said that the first thing FKF should have considered is actually negotiate a payment plan. And, to raise 109 million shillings, I think will be a tough ask for FKF unless a miracle happens.
You are absolutely right.
Well, so we just have to sit back and watch for maybe the likely outcome from Zurich, Milton?
Well, it is obvious that we can only sit and wait, and like I said, I'm glad that the good lawyer, the senior Ouma, has echoed my sentiments that the least FKF needed to have done was to negotiate a proposal for payment, and as opposed to grandstanding and an arrogance that seemed to be misguided. So really, our goose is cooked as a country. We can only pray that on this day FIFA still has something from our jurisdiction in their entry, and perhaps consolidate the decision in view of the STT ruling, and therefore say that perhaps if they are not ready to respond to the decision of the SDT, that perhaps they would put the two together as they contemplate putting together a normalization committee, which committee then, perhaps, I'm just being optimistic here, that they can expect that maybe the normalization committee would come up with a proposal. Because again, there is a history that we are dealing with a leadership at FKF that has been, with all due respect, that for all intents and purposes has been irresponsible, and we have seen how they have conducted themselves, especially in the last 6 months or thereabout, when they were faced with decisions to make about elections, and over again they repeated the same mistake. So I hope and pray that FIFA would consider that trend and perhaps give us a new lease of hope to perhaps negotiate with the government now that we have that kind of scenario.
I don't know if, Ouma, you are still on the line.
Yes.
If the disciplinary committee decides to go ahead and punish Kenya for not paying Adel Amrouche, would that open a precedence? Because we have so many other local coaches who have not been paid. They have worked for Harambee Stars, they have worked for this nation, but the FKF has not paid them. And I don't know if that will open a door, because we know Bobby Williamson was awarded 55 million shillings by the SDT. And as it looks, nobody is willing to pay them.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Hello?
Yes, go on, we're getting you.
Yeah, I'm saying you are absolutely right. And all those coaches have recourse to the FIFA Disciplinary Tribunal. So it is not only Amrouche's case that the FKF has to deal with. It has to deal with all outstanding issues for the simple reason that there is no limitation of action in respect of those outstanding issues. Any of those previous coaches can approach the FIFA Disciplinary Tribunal, and even without a decision of the Court of Arbitration for Sports, the FIFA Disciplinary Tribunal has jurisdiction under both the FIFA statutes and FIFA Code of Ethics to discipline FKF for failing to honor its obligations to the coaches.
Well, that is that should give hope to many other coaches who have cases against FKFs. But because you are on that contribution, we are aware that FIFA is considering a request by the Sports Disputes Tribunal to form a normalization committee. You are one of those lead lawyers who represented interested parties when FKF filed a case against the sports registrar. Now, after the ruling by the tribunal, I don't know, what was your reading? What were the gains, without going into maybe the specific issue of FKF? What were the gains that maybe the other sports federations would get from that ruling by John Haga?
Now, for me, the most important outcome of that decision is that the tribunal upheld the right of members to participate in the choice of the leadership of the respective federations. And the tribunal made it clear that you cannot design an electoral criteria that is designed to stifle the right of members to participate. So for me, it's a big win for democracy in the governance of football, and I hope that other football federations are listening.
Other federations also felt that the Sports Act was a bit stifling, and the tribunal pronounced itself on that and said, look, federations can determine their own branches.
Well, there's an aspect of that part of the decision that I personally disagree with.
But of course, you've got to obey.
Yes, you see, the legal position is that the law is enforced as it is, not as it ought to be. I agree that a reading of the Sports Act does appear to give sports federations an option to decentralize either administratively or through a more elaborate county structure. Now, the problem with the Football Kenya Federation is that their own constitution does not anticipate an administrative decentralization. It contemplates a more elaborate decentralization through county associations. That is why the federation's constitution first says that branches are members. You know, administrative units cannot be members. members must of necessity be legal persons. So it follows that FKF itself has, through its own constitution, chosen to go through the route of decentralizing through county associations. To that extent, I disagree with the finding of the Sports Dispute Tribunal that the FKF has chosen to decentralize administratively. It hasn't. The choice has been made through its own constitution, and the choice that it has made is to decentralize through an elaborate county structure system where it has members who, among other things, have constitutions, members who themselves have members, members who have got certain structures, and members who actually apply to the federation to be admitted to membership. So I totally disagree with the tribunal in that respect. I think it was a misreading of the constitution of FKF.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll come back to you. We want to take a short break, but I'll come back to you. We'll talk about the term of office of the FKF and the request of the tribunal to FIFA to come to Kenya and form a normalization committee. So just don't go away. And if you are watching this show, please make sure you keep up with this conversation because it promises very interesting aspects of that tribunal ruling.